Barely made it.
Welcome, everyone,
Welcome.
to another fabulous episode of DJs and Beers. We're nearly at the 1 year anniversary mark.
Damn.
Ali is back.
And I am back.
Ali's back, but we're missing Matt this time around.
Matt, yeah.
But Ali, maybe you should come closer to your microphone because you're really
yeah.
I like that it says Dubfire Washington. Washington.
Washington.
I like that.
Washington.
So did you guys miss me last week?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, we miss everyone that's gone. We're gonna miss
Good
Matt.
answer.
Matt's doing his dadly fatherly duties tonight.
You never miss me.
We always miss Mo. Mo's when it brings the
Mo brings the heat.
Yeah.
Bring that fire, man.
Bring for heat. We were talking before we got on the show about, like, I didn't get a chance to watch the show last week, and I really wanted to because I was on all of these like back and forth long drives between where my family lives and where I live, and we, if it was on a podcast, it would be really ideal. So this is another reminder that we got to get our shit together and get the podcast going, which it's in the works. For everyone asking.
Is there any demand out there?
There is, man. I get messages from
There
people
is.
all the time. They're like, man, I wish you had an audio version
From your family members?
Yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people would like to listen when they're going for a walk or walking somewhere, or working out. That'd be weird. But you know what? And when I exercise, I listen to like Joe Rogan or funny podcast. So yeah. I guess it would work at the same time.
But we fall into that category, David?
Can't you use YouTube for that?
I guess if you pay for YouTube, you could listen, but if you have it for free, you can't like close your phone and have
also you get the commercials. That's the other problem.
I pay for YouTube, so I don't know. I think that's the best monthly subscription ever.
I pay for it too. It's worth it because I use it that much.
So worth it.
You guys have YouTube
worth paying
TV
for YouTube. If you pay for Netflix or any other stuff, pay for YouTube, dude.
Yeah. What do you get with YouTube when you pay for it? Besides, is there still ads or no ads?
No more ads. Nothing.
See, I would
shut up your phone.
I would almost want to pay for it just for that reason, which I'm sure that's the reason they do it. Because
most people use ad blockers and shit like that, though.
Every seems like every 5 seconds there's just like boom ad and have to hit skip, and it gets so annoying.
No, I think that's the service that is really worth monthly paying for next to maybe Spotify.
How much is it? Like $10 a month or something?
15 euros.
I was about to sign up for YouTube TV until my internet service provider told me that if I cancel my cable, then they're going to hike up my internet service double the price, which ends up costing about the same amount as I would spend for cable and internet.
Blackmail.
Well, the thing is I think all ISPs are getting pissed off now because everybody's just canceling their cable and going to streaming services. Nobody wants TV anymore. Yeah.
But dude, like I think about
Spectrum.
Think about now, if you cancel cable, like cable TV regular, and then you start paying for all these streaming services, it adds up to be just about the same now. If you get like Hulu, Netflix, and now they got like the Paramount channel, and then there's Disney. Each one of those is like $15.
I tell you, just get YouTube.
Just YouTube?
Yeah.
YouTube.
I like watching. See, like I have Sling TV. I like watching live TV without having cable, so I pay for that service.
Yeah, but you can't watch Sling outside of the USA. That's the only downside.
You can with the VPN.
I tried and it didn't work. I had Sling. Really? Yeah.
Huh.
The service is becoming more aware of the VPN networks, and sometimes they just don't work if they notice that you're using a VPN.
But how do they know if it's a VPN? It's just IP address in another country.
Magic wonders of the internet.
The only issue that we have is that the Los Angeles Dodgers is exclusive to cable TV for Spectrum here in LA. So if you want to watch any of the baseball games, which my wife is a diehard and never misses a single game, we have to pay for cable if you want to watch the games.
Chris, you got that like skiers, like that weather-beaten skiers look.
Yeah.
How does your face feel? How do your face and legs feel?
It's all right. I was actually back in Frankfurt last week with the show you missed. I did from Frankfurt. Right now it's raining down here, but I guess it's snowing up there. And yeah, it's good. It's pretty good to be able to just go up on the mountain anytime you want and just do your work here, look out the window, see a mountain. It just helps being creative too.
Yeah. Do you feel like you should have done that last year, like at the start of this pandemic, like immediately jumped ship and moved
difficult
to
question, I mean, it's hard to
or do you have a greater appreciation of where you are now, having been
Chris,
stuck
really,
in Frankfurt over?
Chris, you're really low, by the way.
I'm really low. Oh, I'm really low. Then I have to like get closer.
I guess when you
get
lean
closer to you guys. Is that better?
See, that's where the compressor comes in handy, man.
Oh yeah, compression.
Oh, yeah. Where were we?
There you go.
No, I mean, it's a hard answer, hard thing to answer because, as you say, maybe it wouldn't have been as impactful for me to come here if I came here in the summer already. But I was here in the summer, which was great. But I needed that time in Frankfurt as well. Like, I think everything is exactly as it needs to be always, and you just have to realize it, so there's no regrets, and there is no other way I could have made any other decision than I did in the moment I did the decision. Right?
Yeah.
And
I was
no regrets.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like, for a while, I felt like, all right, I mean, it's all perspective, isn't it? Like, one way of looking at it is like, you lost like a year. But the other way of looking at it is like, okay, you lost a year of work, but maybe you gained like a year of your life back because you were able to like sit still for one brief period of time where we haven't been able to over the last, I don't know how many years. I mean, once I think we all started on this path and started to get, a lot of bookings and you start to get into this routine of just always gigging on the weekends and taking on more and more and more and more. Yeah, this was like a welcome pause.
Well, as I said, it's like no one would have ever taken that break voluntarily. And it's funny, I think, talking about YouTube, I came across a video from Rick Beato. I don't know if you know this guy. He has a channel on YouTube with like 2 million followers. He's a really incredible musician. He takes like classic tracks apart and explains exactly how they work. And he had a video he posted yesterday where he just explained really quickly that about 22 years ago, he formed a band in Atlanta, and they wanted to go to the studio, and they had the option of getting a major label contract with his band. And they had a producer, and so they went to LA, and there was a studio booked and everything. And then the first 3 days, the producer had some personal problems and couldn't come to the studio anymore. And these guys didn't know how to engineer themselves. So everything fell apart. Like, the label came in, they fired the producer. They basically terminated the record label contract and everything. Man. Like, really, really bad. It's like he was like literally just so close to having a major label deal and like a band touring, and everything was open, 22 years ago. So he made that video because this producer actually emailed him just 2 weeks ago. And he emailed him to apologize what happened 22 years ago. Wow. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I had family issues. And you know what Rick's answer was? Dude, you don't need to apologize. If you weren't like not coming back then, my life would completely look different. Now I'm sitting here, I'm having an amazing life. I became a producer, I never became a rock star. I became a producer. I built up this YouTube channel with like 2 million followers. My life is great. I met my wife. I have this great children. So basically the moral of the story was like, if you think in a moment that everything goes to shit, you don't really know like what the outcome will be in the long run. So who knows what this year off I mean, a lot of people go through a lot of shit, and there's a lot of life lost. But maybe in 10 years we look back and we think maybe that was even preventing the next pandemic, which would have been even worse. We don't know. So I think the moral is don't judge the situation, any situation, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's like it's been a year now exactly since like the pandemic kind of started, right? Like official.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was like March 14 or something. Well, when I was in LA, it was March 14 where everything shut down. And like the week leading up to that, all the gigs were getting canceled. I was staying with a friend who was one of the bookers of Coachella. First Ultra canceled, and then when he told me before they announced that Coachella was going to cancel, I was like, all right, there's going to be a domino effect. And sure enough, everything else ended up getting canceled.
And sure enough, 2 weeks later, we started the show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
almost a year now. And
now, if we can finish the track that we started together,
it's still in Matt's hands, I think.
In Matt's hands.
Yeah. Let's pile up on Matt.
We're not a priority to Matt anymore. He's got to do 4 versions of one song and release them.
He's busy making hits.
And I'm sure he's doing that within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With his skills.
So I did my first Clubhouse thing a few days ago. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. Which was fun. It was like it's like doing like an ADE panel or something, where you're not looking at the faces in front of you, so you don't have that like pressure of public, performance or whatever, for lack of a better term. And it was really, really a pleasant experience for me, and the questions, and then there was a moderator, and the moderator was making sure that everybody knew the rules, the ground rules, and they would make sure that the questions were concise and it just was really kind of a smooth and seamless experience. So I'm going to do more of that. I think we want to do like a DJs and Beers one somewhere around the anniversary.
But any audience out there, would you be interested in us doing a Clubhouse thing?
Clubhouse, DJs and Beers.
Yeah, I actually did one as well not long ago with, I don't know if you guys know BT.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, BT, Richard Devine, and myself and a few other people, Josh Eustace, I think. We jumped in and had kind of a chat about music production. It was an interesting platform, a lot more entertaining than I expected it to be, for sure. I think people should join and be more involved.
But so how does it work? You're in a Clubhouse chat, and then everyone can just talk over everybody, or everyone's muted?
No, it's literally like an ADE panel.
Yeah. And like you have to.
I've never done one.
Basically, the moderator.
You raise your hand if you're in the audience.
You raise your hand, and then the moderator can see it and decide who they're gonna let in to speak. And the moderator can also, if someone's got to wrap it up, the moderator is going to wrap them up. So
interesting.
It's I
thought it was just literally like everyone just can go in there and just blab and talk over everybody. I was like, that sounds terrible.
No,
it's not like we do this.
Yeah, imagine a room of like 500 DJs going, how do I make kick drums?
And the other thing we're talking about, you guys brought up, is Discord. Mo, you're on Discord, right?
Yeah, I use Discord pretty often, as a matter of fact.
So I like this is what I was telling you guys in the group chat. It was like, it seems like Discord could be a cool thing to do off the show, where we can do like a Q&A with people that join the forum or group. I don't know what you call them. And then we could just answer questions, all of us individually, instead of like this, where we wait for, someone to finish talking.
Yeah. We can answer questions like somebody, I was laughing today on this post that I put up of the live stream that I did for Danny Teneglia. Someone's like, how did you mix without CDs or turntables? We can answer questions like that.
Or skip them.
Yeah, or skip them. I think
Yeah,
it's
you
more
know, it's
fun to
funny.
answer.
I find Facebook to be a fucking plague of a place for me to be. I can't stand it. I logging in is instant depression for me now, and I've found that Discord is still a place where I can get that kind of social interaction and communication with people fix without all of the bogged down opinions that seem to surround me going to places like Facebook. So it's a cool place. Just there's a handful of groups, and I've just kind of been doing researches of different kind of Discord servers that are kind of techno focused, and there's quite a handful of them that are resourceful, especially for music production tips and stuff like that. And I think it's a fun platform.
How was the Clubhouse chat with BT? And because Brian is like I mean, I've known Brian since 7th grade. We were like best friends for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we
Shit.
The second, we did quite a few collabs together on our label and on Tribal America.
Wait, you went to the same high school?
Junior high school. Yeah.
What?
Wow.
Great.
And Beats. Yeah. We were like best friends. We still keep in touch. He lives in Maryland. He lives about probably like a 30-40 minute drive from me. Yeah. And he's his studio is like one of the most insane studio designs you've ever seen.
Well, it's interesting. Brian's really good friends with Richard, and me and Richard Devine have been friends for like 20 years plus. Our families are both really close, and every time he comes to LA, he stays with me here at my house. And me and Richard go to NAMM every single year, and Richard would stay at my crib when he comes out to NAMM. And BT always wanted to go to NAMM with the Richard. They always attend together. So BT would come out to my house and pick Richard and me up, and then we'd all three of us go together. And we have no relationship with each other outside of just going to NAMM with each other every single year. Like I'm not 100% familiar with all of his music. I know that he's a very well acclaimed producer and all that stuff. But our relationship is based purely on geeking out on studio gear, and that's it.
I mean, he's the ultimate geek. I don't know Richard, but Brian, he's always been that way ever since I met him.
I guess putting us, the three of us, is you couldn't have a more diverse variety. I mean, Richard makes like straight up noise music, and BT does his thing, and I'm doing my thing. We're all on completely different levels musically, but we can always come together with a shared appreciation for music gear.
The interesting thing about, sorry, Chris. The interesting thing about Brian is when he first came into our junior high school, Brian was like, he's like a good looking guy. And he was really, he became quite famous with the popular kids, but he was quite geeky. So he wasn't your quintessential, like nerdy, studio geek. He was like, and none of us were, friends with the popular kids in school, but Brian, like everybody loved him, all the popular kids. So he was always getting invited to their parties. He would hang out with them, but he also had this geeky side that he, continued to develop. And he had a foot in both kind of camps, which is rare.
Hey, young audience people, if you're watching, you're still going to school and you're not belonging to the popular kids, don't worry. None of us were with the popular guys.
Yeah.
None.
And look at how we turned out.
David's like, speak for yourself. I was a popular kid.
No, I wasn't. I was not a popular kid. I was saying no, like I wasn't.
I can't imagine that. Sorry.
David was in the beer
I know you
club.
guys too well.
I was in the beer club when I was 17.
Hey, I jumped on our call just before the show started today because there was a reason for it, because I literally never, ever met our guest tonight. I never even ran into him. But I've released multiple records of his brother. And I hung out with his brother quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And that's why I didn't want to spoil it. I didn't want to like. I wanted to wait for the
that's
moment.
right. Yeah, that's why you're.
I didn't want to. I wanted to wait for the moment when Frankie comes on and just say hello. You know,
Well, should we,
for those who
should we
are
bring
watching, sometimes we come on the call a little earlier before we go live. So sometimes we try to avoid it because sometimes you lose momentum, you know, and you shoot the shit before and everything's said and done, and then the show starts. We want to avoid that, right?
Yeah,
kind of.
So
let's bring Frankie on the show.
Should we bring?
He's listening.
Frankie?
Turn on your camera.
We're coming in.
There he is. He's coming in.
Coming in hot.
Hey,
all the way from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
Hell yeah. What's up? All you guys are my heroes. I just want to say this before we go on. You know what I mean? And spent some really good memories with all of you. I was just thinking about Dubfire and Movement in 2018 at the after party when RZA from Wu-Tang is rapping over the beats. That was like
that was a weird one.
My mouth just. Woo, it was amazing. I mean, what does it feel like to have Wu-Tang standing behind you rapping, especially RZA, because he's the main guy? I mean, how did that feel? Like,
I mean, I used to be a hip hop DJ, so those guys
been
were
like an amazing, you know.
Yeah, but like where I played.
No, I mean, we.
I was going to say where I had a weekly residency and we were quite, I was like acid jazz and hip hop. It was me and a Jamaican MC named Hutchie, and I'd play the whole night, and sometimes he'd step in and rhyme over like instrumentals or play some reggae records. But, you know, usually like bands like, you know, De La Soul, Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy. We had Brand New Heavies come through.
I went to
bands were playing a show that night. They would come through. If it was on a Friday or Saturday, they would come through and sometimes get on the microphone. So for me, I was doing it already with Hutchie, the other resident, and then these guys would jump on. So for me, it was quite natural when RZA came in. I kind of already knew what to do, and he just wanted to keep going.
I walked in there. I was just like, wait, is that RZA rapping to Dubfire? Like, what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you see the bridge in the background. So last year, when the summer came around, we started bringing sound systems down to the Verrazano Bridge and playing right where what you see in the background. And we did 13 Sundays in a row and didn't have any trouble. People, it's a legal spot. I mean, it was during the pandemic. But on the last night, the rapper Afro, who's like amazing lyricist, just pops out and starts rapping over my beats. And then it lasted 15 minutes, and it was the cops came and shut us down for the first time. Because when the hip hop thing comes, just people were coming in droves. Yeah. And like I said, it was during the pandemic. In the beginning, it was fine. We only had, you know, 50, 60 people. But yeah, I mean, the last year has been, I mean, you guys were talking about this earlier about how, you know, everybody hasn't been playing, haven't been on airplanes. And yeah, I mean, you sit and you know, you think about life. And I mean, this is for all of us. It leveled the playing field. At 11, none of us were doing anything really except, you know, dealing with this pandemic. And especially in New York, it was horrible. So March 11, which is today, last year was the first coronavirus death. Lockdown happened on 14th, but the 11th was when the first death happened. Now, if we go back 10 years ago to March 11th, that's when the Japanese tsunami happened and all those people died.
Yeah, that's the anniversary is today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 10 years.
Right? Fukushima. Yeah.
I was living in California. I was in Huntington Beach at the time. I was supposed to go out to Sutra, which is a party in Costa Mesa. And I put CNN on and I watched that first wave live rolling in. Yeah. And I knew a historical thing and a very horrible thing was about to happen. And it really, you know, I mean, to witness that tsunami was, I've never seen, you know, nobody's ever seen anything like it. But I mean, I don't want to talk about death on the show, but I mean, we've been dealing with a lot in the last year. And I mean, like you say, you know, a lot of thinking. If you're making tracks and you have that banger, you don't want to release it because there's nothing going on. You're probably holding back catalog. And it's going to be amazing to see what kind of music comes out of this. And like, I'm calling it post-pandemic techno, like from this point on. And, you know, I know you guys all have tracks that you're going to release, you know, you're holding this one for a later date. I have a few myself. And but all you guys are my heroes. I'm just saying, you know, I mean, I never met you personally, Chris, but like, you know, Adam signed as Traversable Wormhole to CLR. We know the history. My brother's out there in Berlin, and you know, you've been that guy for so long. You know what I mean? I mean,
nice to meet you.
when we still had my record store. I mean, we closed in 2004, but I remember saying something about Chris. I said, "Yo, Chris is kind of falling back. He's not doing what he used to do." And my brother's like, "Shut up! Don't say shit about him. You're always starting shit with people." And then you just became CLR is just legendary. And then like I said, Dubfire. I mean, when you remix Plastic Man, that was it. It was like, wow. He just smashed like Richie Horton, like in a record that was, Spastic's a very well-known song, but to take it and remix it that way got a lot of play out. I still could play that today. And then we were at Drum Cell, we were at Further, what was it, 2016? One of the best shows of the night there that I remember. I mean,
we had a good time that night.
Wisconsin, I mean, to get all the way up to like Mellon, Wisconsin, a DJ, just the traveling, just from Chicago, it's 7 hours. So when you get up there and you're just in a remote field out of nowhere, and that was an amazing thing. And then Trunkay, like I said, what can I say, David? We were at Roundy Court Shop at Vinyl. It's only like 2 years ago. We were already doing DJs and pizzas. So I mean, Trunkay stuff. Dietrich's a very good friend of mine, and Dietrich masters pretty much everything that's left on vinyl these days. And I mean, he makes your record sound. I mean, when they say vinyl sounds warmer, I don't know what he does, but the spectrum of those vinyls, when you drop the needle, sounds so crisp and clean. It's amazing.
He masters your records, David?
Yeah, he does the pressing and everything. He's been since day one. He's been with
and he's dedicated. I was just up at his place in Connecticut like maybe 3 weeks ago, and vinyl coming out still. They only press like 300, 400, but like if it's something bigger, maybe more. But I mean, even me, I don't play vinyl anymore. I still collect it, but I mean, of course, with the technology available nowadays, the vinyl thing is pretty much.
Dietrich's played a pretty pivotal role in all of our labels and helping us get us started, helping me start Droid, and as well as so many other modern day U.S. techno labels who are around now. Dietrich's holding it down right now for the U.S.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody else really. Well, I'm sure there is, but I mean, not for techno per se.
No,
Frankie,
not like he does.
Frankie, you have this sense of pride about being from Brooklyn. That's always appeared to me to be so infectious. Where does that? Because I never felt that connection to DC where I grew up. Maybe it's because I wasn't born in DC and I didn't really feel like I had support here from the locals. I always found that support across the pond in Europe and stuff like that. But you've always been a hardcore Brooklyner, and you're still living in Brooklyn. So where does that sense of connection and pride?
My father was murdered driving a taxi in 1985. So I was 18. My brother Adam X, he was 13. I know at 18 years old, I never was at a funeral. I was never at a wake. Nobody I knew died. Like my grandfather died when I was 2. I don't remember that. But when my father got murdered, it was instantaneous. It was, he's gone, So, I mean, what that does when you lose a family figure, and, it was just me, my mom, my brother, and Adam. And I just got out of high school, and, DJing was my dream. And 3 weeks before my dad got murdered, I had my first DJ gig where I got paid $200. Now, my dad was a record collector for years, had tons of vinyl, never thought you could get paid for putting a record on a turntable. I don't know why, but in his vision, I was just wasting time with it. Nobody would ever give you money. And that New Year's, I was just 18. I played a bar in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. I got paid $200. And when my dad saw that I had $200 and somebody gave me money for playing records, his eyes kind of lit up. And he probably would have been my manager. But then like, a few weeks later, he was taken from this world. And, we don't have a big family. So it was me, my mom, and my brother pretty much. And I was hell-bent after that. It was like, I have to make it as a DJ. And the other thing was the drinking age was 18 in New York up until December 1st, 1984. So it went up to 21. So now I had to wait another 2.5 years to go back into the club. So, my father's gone. I have this downtime, kind of like what we were talking about pandemic, that downtime. So Omar Santana was doing a lot of edits on major labels at the time. So Omar took me under his wing with Carlos Berrios. We were doing freestyle music back then, which was, Latin hip hop, electro. But coming out of the Funhouse era, like the Funhouse, in New York, the clubs, Paradise Garage, Studio 54. The Funhouse don't really get the credit it should get. But, you know, like Madonna came out of the Funhouse, Beastie Boys, Run DMC. So the electro thing. And
Who was the resident DJ of the Funhouse?
Jelly Bean Benitez.
Jelly Bean. Okay, yeah. I'm friends with his daughter. I'm good friends with Layla, his daughter.
Yeah. I mean, Jelly Bean was.
And where was the Funhouse?
For us, Funhouse was 526 West 26th Street in Manhattan. And it was mostly Latin, Latin kids, white kids. It was a mixture of crowds, but all from the boroughs. So it's Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, coming into Manhattan, into the concrete jungle, as they called it then. And, younger kids. And that's where the Arthur Baker thing, Planet Rock, the whole electro thing. So when we talk about Chicago house having its roots in the early 80s, in New York, to me, electro was our early roots. Jam on it, let the music play, all that type of stuff. So coming out of freestyle, Omar Santana's doing all these edits, and he was getting big work. He was doing the Rolling Stones. He did Michael Jackson. The labels would just hire him to do these multi-edits that the Latin Rascals were famous for doing. And I learned a lot about, early production. And then we started producing, and that's how I met Tommy Musto and Lenny D. And that was probably 87. I mean, I didn't know what rave was until I got to, the UK in 89. So basically, we just were making records, tracks. I started the Bones Breaks thing. They already had success. Tommy and Lenny had The Morning After by Fallout. I think that was 87. Became really big in the UK. But when I got to the UK in August of 89, the whole rave thing had just exploded there. And, to walk, never knowing what a festival or anything with our music was, and then to see 25,000 people in a field, it was like, I got to bring.
How did you end up going to the UK? Tell us that story, and what did you bring back from there?
Interesting story, because Tim Taylor from Missile Records, he was an agent for this rock agency called JSE, and he started going to these raves, and he said, I think I could get these guys from America to come over, and they gave him the shot, and they brought me and Tommy Musto over in August of 89, and Energy was supposed to have 5,000 people, so we turn up on stage 4 in the morning, it's 25,000 people in the field, one stage. And I looked at Musto, he looked at me. I threw Call It Techno on. I had just made that track. And I get on the mic and I'm like, Call It Techno, you can feel the bass. I'm doing all that like I'm some kind of artist. And to be honest, they didn't want to hear my vocals. They just wanted to hear our music. But we became really big in the UK real quick. I mean, I was spending every 2 weeks, I was going after do big gigs for the first 2 years. And all I wanted to do was bring it home, bring it to the United States, to Brooklyn, really. Yeah. And then June 1st, 1990, LA booked me. They thought I lived in the UK. When I got off the plane, I played the Mayan Club, but the promoters picked me up and they hear this Brooklyn accent and they were convinced that I was some kind of fluke, like, really. They hear this accent and they're like, I'm like, guys, I know you know me from the UK. That's because this whole thing hasn't really happened here yet. But let me just do the gig and then you'll see and then you'll know, because they really were like, why do you have a New York accent? And they knew I had a New York accent. I probably couldn't have booked. Yeah. But I got to see both sides of the country, LA and then New York. Basically, they taught me in LA how to break into warehouses, because the downtown scene of LA had warehouse parties. They were just called undergrounds at the time. They weren't even called raves when I got there. I mean, the Mayan Club flyer I have says from the warehouse raves of the UK, and that's when it started being called raves. Not that I brought it there, but like, because I was there, the name rave just arrived pretty much at the same time. These kids were doing warehouse parties for years, since like 85, 86, but it was more like bring your dad's John Coltrane records down and played them, on 45. And I brought Adam with me. Adam wasn't even a DJ. He was just a graffiti writer. He watched all the other DJs in LA DJ. He goes, they're not even mixing like you, Bones. Like, what's up? I could do that. And then he got a booking, and then I told him, look, bring your records out there. You put the record on. You let one fade out. You bring the next one in. Just act like you know what you're doing. And in a few months, you'll pick it up and you'll be fine. And Adam, did that. And that's how Adam got, to be a DJ. And we had the record store we opened in 1990.
It's funny because for us in LA, you and Adam coming out was like a beacon of light for techno, because there wasn't that many people doing techno out here on the West Coast. And when Frankie was coming out, you knew that you were going to be slamming it, man.
Still, like, one of my number one sets in my memory history of going to raves is you and Adam X back to back on 4x4s. It was like in 99.
It was like in an L formation, kind of. We were like kind of side by side. I do
That shit
remember
still
that.
like that shit blew my mind, dude.
Yeah,
I'll never
someone
forget
did
that.
3 months of him DJing and was convinced he was a better DJ than me. And to this day, I can't debate one or the other. I know, 2019, I played a Trezor with Adam. We both had 3-hour sets, and Adam gets into this industrial kind of electro gothic kind of dark BDSM kind of like. It's an amazing sound he has, and Chris knows because of the traversable wormhole stuff.
Yeah.
And I just love like that sound too. Like Tommy stuff on your label, Clear. I mean, Dan Monarchs back when he was doing stuff. A lot of guys with that more industrial edge. It's just raw, man. It's like that, just like being in a factory and the gears turning and the machines going. So yeah, I mean, I love that side too. I'm a raver by heart, so I kind of like everything. But being
Frankie,
that
how did you get the name Bones? When was
I
that?
was so thin when I was in high school. I mean, my mom would give me like $5 for lunch, and there was a record store on the way home from school. I don't think I ate that whole year. I just ate my records.
Well, I mean, we're all, I think.
I'm pretty fat now. People see me now, like, yeah, how did you get the name Bones? You're pretty like but sitting around during the pandemic, a lot of stuff. I mean, like I said, we did go out with the sound system last year, and we created this thing called Sessions. I'm actually doing one tonight. We have this place called Techno Beach. It's in Brooklyn. It's like an abandoned beach, and we do live streams from there. So I'll be heading out there later tonight. The weather's like 70 degrees here today. So
nice.
And was the first event that you put on in New York, was it a storm rave, or that came later? You were building up
to came later, but we were using the name, we were breaking into warehouses straight up. I had scout buildings. I mean, like I said, in LA, they taught me how to go into the building. You cut the lock off the roll gate, you roll the roll gate down.
But tell everyone how to break into her.
But you put your own lock on the gate. If you come back in 2 weeks and your lock's on the gate, the space is secured for the night. So we were definitely doing a lot of illegal stuff like that. We were breaking into masonry yards. Anywhere we could put a sound system where people would come, we would do it. And then
we're still doing it.
Yeah, I know. In fact, in this post-pandemic, world that's about to start, which I don't know if it's actually starting now but it's coming. I mean, it's going away finally. People are getting vaccines, and
I think in Miami it started a lot.
Yeah, no, Florida. I don't know. Florida's its own world. I don't know what goes on in Florida or how they were able to do this, but if you look at any of the parties that went on in Florida this year up to now, any party that happened, these people aren't dancing. They're standing around socializing, and it's almost like, you are able to have a party, but until people are really dancing, it's not a party really. I don't want to be at an event where nobody's dancing. I'm not used to that. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, I don't know how they did it down there, but I mean, in New York, we're gonna have some terrible restrictions up here. I doubt when they let the clubs open back up that they're gonna be able to go to 4 a.m. They'll probably end them at midnight. You have to have social distancing still. I mean, it's bad. Our governor here and the mayor, I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but it's bad in New York City right now.
Yeah.
So
going back to so you were doing you were breaking into warehouses and stuff, putting on events, and then you started to build like a mailing list. And
what we did was in 1990 early, we started throwing like small parties in at a friend's apartment, really, like 15, 20 people. But what would happen is we do it every week. So 15 people would become 30 people. 30 people would become 60 people, and it would just keep doubling until 1992 when we did 5,000 people at Storm. So we always had to get bigger spaces. We were always looking for spots, warehouses, and in parks, wherever we could do it. And 1990, 91, it was a growing period. This is interesting because March 25th of 1990, all right, so it was 1990, we had the Happy Land fire in New York where 87 people died in a social club. Some guy had a fight with his girlfriend and dumped gasoline at the front of this social club, burned it down, and there was only one way out. All 87 people died. Now, before 9/11 happened, that was the most people that ever died in one place at one time since the 1911 Triangle Fire, which happened where a bunch of workers died in a fire. So up to that point, we didn't have any death like that happen in the city. So 87 people were gone. They start the social club task force. This is in 1990. I had just opened my record store, and we were planning on doing these raves. And that pretty much guaranteed we weren't going to be able to do raves because the social club task force was out at all the clubs checking fire codes and all that. And it didn't seem like it was going to happen. So move 30 years later to last year in 2020, March 14th, the lockdown happened. I feel like we're on a 30-year parallel right now. So what I'm doing in 2021 is building these parties up the same way, doing small ones in parks. And I think, just that the weather just got warm. I drove by Marine Park, which is a big park in Brooklyn. The basketball courts were filled with kids. Everybody was in this park. They wanted to get out of the house because winter was really long here. We had a couple bad snowstorms. But I feel like everybody being cooped up, and you guys know from whatever you've done in the last year, being cooped up and locked down to your house or wherever you are, yeah, you get a lot of time to think. And, because we have experiences that we've done our whole lives, like techno is my religion. I'm not religious, I'm very spiritual, but techno really is the religion. So it has been. So I think that, good things are, in the 1920s, they called it the Roaring 20s, right?
That's what they say about
before
this.
the Great Depression, people were partying. So I think we're going to have a good run in the future.
People are always, like wanting to do what they're told they can't do or they shouldn't do. It's just.
It's music. You guys know how big this thing has grown since it started. It's like, we're out there. Duffy, you're on planes. You're probably a 1,000,000-mile flyer, right? You gotta have those miles because you're all over the world.
3 million on United.
Yeah, wow. Are they still good? They don't expire, right?
No, they're allowed. They're like renewing it. I think most of my airline mileage kind of statuses have been extended for another year.
Yeah, I haven't had that in years. Because I look at it like, to me, I'm not a senior citizen yet. I still got a few years to go, but trying to rebuild the scene in New York to me is going to be very important. Before the pandemic happened, New York was controlled pretty much like the scene. A lot of Europeans were over here making their money, and that's fine, but I don't think they're here now. So to rebuild the scene, to have people that have experience with this, I think it's going to be very easy for me to find venues once they reopen and actually do stuff where I can book DJs again. Because, like with Storm,
how did you continue to be inspired enough by Brooklyn to just, Adam, how long has he been living in Berlin?
Adam, I think, has been in Berlin now 14 years. I think it is. It's 12 or 14 years. I'm not really sure. And he loves Berlin, and I love Berlin, but I can't live, outside of America. I don't think I could do it. And the godsend on this was that my mom has nobody to take care of her. She's 77 years old, and I wound up being her primary caretaker once the pandemic happened. And if I wasn't here to do that, like if I was, let's say I was overseas living, my mom probably would be in a nursing home. And that's where all the New York deaths came from, people in nursing homes. When the government just sent everybody back into these nursing homes with COVID, and a lot of people died like that. So I think in a way I might have saved my mom's life by being here for her.
That goes back to what Chris, you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's, there's something. Yeah. Oh, I got my beer. I didn't even open it yet. Let me open it.
Yeah. What do you got?
I don't know what it is. I never tried it.
That's
it. I'm gonna try it, see what it's like. It says session ale. I like sessions because that's what we call our thing. Is session.
I've had that before. That's pretty good.
It's a good beer. It's from they're from the Midwest.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. I'm glad you guys are all still here. Absolutely. Truncate, I don't even know if you realize how much stuff of yours I play. I layer it in everything. It's like, I started using Tractor. I think Dubfly, when I saw you at Analog, were you using an S4? I think you were. I don't
That's where, no, not in I never used, I think I used an S4 just once in a basic, funny enough, because I was doing like a promo campaign for Native Instruments where they were filming, and I was super nervous to play on it. And I played it for the first time. Obviously, like, you were this mythical kind of figure in my life when I was like, not even in the business. I was like dreaming of getting into the business, and I was reading about everything you were doing, the storm parties, the record store, the Bones Breaks. I was a collector of the Bones Breaks series. But yeah, I think we met for the first time at Audio, and that blew my mind when you came through.
Yeah, you guys had such a run in the 90s as Deep Dish. It was, top dogs, really. When you think about it, with remixing and all that. The 90s with the remixing and the major labels, there was money there. Big money.
A lot of money. Yeah.
Todd Terry pretty much came up maybe 6 months before me, but Todd Terry, legendary status on the house thing right there. You got into the 90s and, when you remix something like that's really important, like that record Missing, Everything But the Girl, Todd did, right? And you getting paid $25,000 for a mix, and you're doing, you got steady work. That's some big money right there.
Yeah.
Me, I abandoned all of that after I did a few remixes. We did 808 State for Tommy Boy in America, and we were getting decent coin, but I just wanted to throw these rave parties, and everybody thought I was out of my mind, and I probably am out of my mind. But at the same time, we brought the scene into New York in a way where, I learned a lot from the West Coast because it blew up on the West Coast first, especially in Los Angeles. There's always been this debate about San Francisco starting the rave scene and on the West Coast. But October 16th, 1989, there was a major earthquake there. So to start a rave scene after the whole city pretty much collapsed, I give it to LA and SoCal. Because they had it pretty much right from, 91 on when Herb Magazine started. I was in number 2 of Herb Magazine. This is going back to like 91. And, they did like a 4-page spread on me. And it was an honor because I never had that before. But, the music, the breakbeat music, like the Total Confusion by Homeboy Hippie and the Dreads.
That's my all-time favorite. Yeah, it's like all-time.
You know what I mean? Favorite. Like, I Paul played it, a remix of Total Confusion at Movement in 2017. He was closing out, and I just heard Total Confusion, and
that's the Benny Rodriguez rework. Which Benny and I were together.
He did another one, that Mannix 88 to piano track, which is another rave classic. Yeah, he does really good remixes. But the minute it said Total Confusion, this lightning bolt came out of the sky, and I saw it. There's a picture of it, of Paul. You'll see the lightning, and it was just so like, it was like the heavens was with us. And I always get that feeling in Detroit. Whenever I'm in Movement, some weird energy, but it's really...
I know exactly what you mean. I feel it too.
Energy. Like super positive. Like, when I saw you, 2018 came rolling in, all of a sudden it was like, we just were trooping around. We had a whole crew with us. We went to the after party. And it's like, the people that treat you as, as an artist, they know who you are. They respect you. You go to Ultra. Now, I played at Ultra. It's more the EDM crowd, you know what I mean? Yeah. So they see you, they don't know. Most of them don't even know who we are, a lot of them. So,
Frankie, we had we've had Lenny on the show, Lenny D. We had Joey Beltram recently, and when he was talking about his early, days getting into the music, he was also into like freestyle and house music. He was into house music, and then I asked him, I'm like, when did you make that left turn to techno? He said that he was always more interested in like the edgier, trackier stuff. So while some of the other people that he was coming up with gravitated towards the soulful house thing, he went in complete opposite direction. Was that the same for you? Like, moved, like you were watching, obviously I'm sure you were friends with Todd Terry and stuff. You were watching what he was doing.
Yeah.
You decided to go in.
But Bones Breaks were inspired by Todd in the beginning. So if you run the timeline of me, Lenny, Tommy Musto, Joey Beltram, New Groove Records, Fourth Floor Records, we were doing freestyle records in 87 and 88, which were like Latin hip hop girls singing. We were actually doing songs that were getting on the radio. They weren't per se pop tracks. They were more like underground, but they were still songs. Then the house thing came along. Tommy was always like kind of straight soulful house in the beginning. And, doing sessions with me and Lenny off and on. I mean, we were just into obscure like breakbeat things and sticking breakbeats over the house. And then it evolved. And then when Joey Beltram came out with Direct Let It Ride, probably was like 88 or 89, it was freestyle, but it had the techno edge. It was straight like techno, just with a, more choppy beat. And I think Joey led us into the whole techno thing in a sense of his production skills. Like Joey Beltram in his beginning state, before Energy Flash, talking about like Lost Entity, the Direct Record Let It Ride, you could hear his futurism in there. And then it attracted all of us. And then Lenny was very good because, Lenny went to school for music. He actually was working with Arthur Baker. He worked with Nile Rodgers from Chic. So he actually really knew, where he was going with it. Me, I was a kid from the streets. I loved taking my Casio RZ1, making these rough beats and just throwing them on tracks, whatever it was. But we were like an assembly line. So we had a pressing plant and we had records coming through. And then Todd Terry signed Black Riot, A Day in a Life, to Fourth Floor Records, which was our label. And that thing sold like 40,000 records just independently before licenses. We were pressing that record like once a week for like 8 to 10 weeks, like a multiple amount, dropping them off at stores until 40,000 was sold. Our records were selling 5,000 to 10,000 copies. So they weren't per se hits, but back in those days, independently, you're selling 5,000, 10,000 records. You know, you're making a profit and you're getting music out there, and that's how Tim Taylor called us up to come to England. So it all kind of worked out that way. But yeah, Lenny and me, we were rivals in the very beginning. We were neighborhood rivals. We didn't like each other, but when I met him up at the office there, and we started to realize we're both kids from Brooklyn. You know, we both usually. When people are rivals, it's just because you're popular in a neighborhood, and people know you. But then when we kind of collabed together, it was natural that we were good as producers, and we started doing the first record, Get the Hoe by Gangsters of Freestyle. We had like college radio, B91 was playing it like in rotation, and we got known in the neighborhood for it. So we were like little superstars of the neighborhood at the time, never thinking we'd go. We didn't know what overseas was yet. So when it happened, it was kind of overwhelming to go to Europe for the first time. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. I was 22, and there's all these people in a field dancing on ecstasy. I didn't know what ecstasy was at that point. I mean, and I was pretty, I was underground in New York, but we never heard of it. But then when it came here, it was just one thing is like techno arrived, ecstasy arrived, rave arrived, boom, all at the same time in 91. And it was nonstop. And it's been up until the pandemic happened. It's been like a 30-year journey. Like when I write a book about it, it's going to be a pretty good ride, to talk about all that's going on.
Yeah, it's when I
Definitely
think
a book
about
I would read.
yeah, that period of time. I mean, nobody had the travel habits that they have today, where people will travel from, the deepest corners of South America all the way to Belgium for like Tomorrowlands or Timor or whatever. Back then, people in America didn't travel abroad.
I never heard of it
for a party, for a rave,
I mean, I went to Tokyo on a 17-hour flight, and I in 96, and it was like to go all the way to Japan on a plane from New York. It's a long flight. It takes a lot out of you, and I mean, and I don't even have the history of airline flights like my brother does, or like Rob G, let's say, Lenny D, just like constantly back forth. When you're saying 3 million miles, that's a lot of time on a plane, you know what I mean? To go that far. So, I mean, but it was a good experience. I mean, I always liked to come home and do it in New York, and then the EDM thing kind of changed everything in like the early 2000s, It wasn't as exciting to me from like 2002 to after 9/11 happened. All right, so that was another thing, 9/11 really ruined it for New York as a club scene went, and that's why we don't have a record store. It wasn't downloading. We were selling vinyl, and then we're in the shadows of the World Trade Center, and when they collapsed, there was no more traveling. People from Europe weren't coming here, and I mean, we lasted until 2004 selling vinyl. We would have went further if we could have, but yeah.
But even in the 90s, I mean, you traveled quite a bit to LA back and forth. I mean,
the LA.
I imagined you were based in New York, but I mean,
you got to realize, like, LA was like home to me from the very first time. When Chris Punch first brought me out, I met Doc Martin. Me and Doc were like tight from the very, very beginning. DJ Dan. I mean, I know all the big DJs that were big on the West Coast were my like family, really. Yeah. I mean, Sandra Collins, like.
I mean, this was kind of a pivotal moment for me in my history. I mean, I started going to parties in LA in 95, and like just growing up, it seemed like all the best parties was when like it was like Frankie Bones, RAW, and Rondi Core on every flyer. And I can imagine for the amount of flyers that I'd seen when you were playing, I mean, you must have been flying back and forth from the West Coast to the East Coast, West Coast nonstop.
I moved to California in 2006. I lived in Huntington Beach for like 5 years. So it's kind of like a little hiatus period. But I mean, I loved California from the minute I got off the plane in 1990. Watching like Chips as a kid, or any movie that's in California. Breaking.
I love Chips.
You go to Venice Beach, and I went roller skating on Venice Beach the first time, and it was like when somebody like from New York says, "Oh, I hate the West Coast," or the West Coast says, "Oh, I hate the East Coast." I mean, you haven't really been to either or enough times to be saying that, because if you're from New York and you go to Cali and you don't like it, there's something wrong with you, because the weather is always like today in New York. We have perfect weather. It's like that every day in LA. In fact, after 5 years of living there, I got bored of it never snowing. I was like, I got to go back and get some cold weather, because it was always nice in California,
These guys wouldn't know it because they never go out.
I just, and I know California really well. I mean, it's like Yeah, I live out in the San Fernando Valley. I'm like, all right, so what exit do I get off the 405? And, you know, now you have GPS. Back then we had maps. But, I mean, the Thomas guide, we used to go to the raves in the desert, and I'd rent a car, and I'd drive from LA, and we'd be going out to, like, you know, Arizona, like, to Lake.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I just love that you could drive 70 miles an hour on a freeway where you can't do that in New York. It's 50 miles an hour here. And, you know, it's not even 55. In New York City, the street, it's 25 miles an hour in the streets, 50 miles an hour on air, parkways, freeways, whatever we got. So
hey, I don't even think you can even imagine how many shows you've played out here that I've been able to attend and be at. I mean,
yeah, I used to like going out to like San Bernardino. That was fun, like going to the Nas and yeah, there was a lot of fun. Oh my God, yeah, it's classic right there. That's funny.
That's
awesome.
I remember that flyer. Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
This is one of the top 5 most influential parties of my entire life.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Saw
a
you
Jojo,
play.
I mean, I
remember.
mean, we
Wow.
were definitely from the very beginning very ahead of our time. I mean, you know, having Adam as my brother and being that he's like almost 5 years younger than me, we were very competitive. And Adam is like, he doesn't take no for an answer ever. So like, he was a graffiti writer. If you see my brother's artwork, his artwork in graffiti, he's an amazing, amazing graffiti artist, right? So also amazing producer. Just we kind of veered off in different directions a little bit, but you know, getting to play with him at Trésor and, you know, playing 3-hour sets. And then we went to Paris and we played on some boat called Concrete out there.
Concrete, yeah.
His sets, just Adam goes in and he gets into his thing and he's locked in there. The place could be on fire and the fire department's not going to get him out of there. Once he's into his group, he's locked in there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the dynamic between you and your brother? And like even in the early days, like you probably were successful before he was successful. Then he became successful as well. Then you have that dynamic going on.
It's because my father died. He was only 13 years old. So immediately I'm the older brother. So he was looking up to me. But at the time,
and it's 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, 4 years and 10 months, but yeah, close to 5 years. So with Adam, you know, now I'm predominantly the older figure in the family now that my father's gone. And, you know, I mean, me and my brother always got along, but we, you know, we fight like any other brothers and sisters fight, you know, the same way. And he had to find himself. And he, you know, when we opened the store, he came right in and, you know, it wasn't like when I opened the store, I don't even know what I was really doing. It was just, I knew I had to have a place where people could come to congregate to, you know, do these rave parties. So I built a record store. It became like the focal point. And at that time, we were getting all the records from Watts Record Distributor, and they got everything from Europe. So we probably had more access to vinyl in the 1990s, early 90s than anybody on the planet, because everybody wanted to get their records sold in America to get deals. So we would get labels, you know, Bush Records would come in, like we had like Dave Clark's Red Series, like weeks before it really came out. And lots of copies we would, you know, selling. A lot of the record stores, they buy 5 copies, that's it, and then you don't see them anymore. But we were, you know, like when Jeff Mills did the Bells, we were selling box loads of those things. Like I remember, I mean, it was probably 97, 98, but like still 100 records a week of one title is a lot of records for a small record store. So we grew up with the music, you know. So
that would have been my next question. Like, tell us more about Sonic Groove, but maybe you can tie that in with your brother. Like, did you teach your brother? Did your brother wanted to be taught?
Well, no, my brother just learned everything he did on his own. I mean, he didn't really learn much from me. We were doing the rave parties together, and then we were playing the rave parties together. I mean, by 92, we had, you know, look, one of the storm raves, I had Richie Horton and Sven Voth on the same lineup. So you got to imagine, and these are the first time Sven was in America and the first time Richie played in New York. So for us, I mean, like, and Richie was God to us. I don't care what anybody says about Richie Horton. Between 1990 and 1993, that dude did more for this music than anyone on the planet, including Mills. You know, I mean, the only other person I would give credit to at that time was the Mover, Mark Ocatapane, you know, but like Richie's tracks from 1990, and we knew Richie when he was Richie Rich. That's when we met Richie. If you look at the first side of Sonoray, it says Richie Rich on there. So we knew Richie from there. He's like family to us. I mean, you know, Adam actually had a fist fight with Richie, like on September 10th, 2001, the day down. Richie and Adam, they're buddies for years. They got a little belligerently drunk at, I think, Guernica's where Richie played. And afterwards, Richie drops a piece of glass goes in Adam's face. He's bleeding. Richie's laughing at him, and Adam and then got a little scuffle. But that would have been the end of the friendship there if the Twin Towers didn't fall down the next day. And then Adam ventured in the city and found Richie at the hotel and made sure he was all right. And like, It's like almost like a, it's a loose knit family, really. But yeah, I mean, but saying like, bringing a Richie Hort in the Storm Rave in 1992. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I almost had Carl Cox for that lineup too that day, but he wasn't in town. It was during like the Winter Music Conference in Florida. We had the New Music Seminar in New York up to like 92 or 93.
Yeah.
So everybody would come in, and not only was Sven Valder Richie there, but you had Renat from R&S Records. You had a lot of label people. You had like Casper Pound from Rising High. I mean, it was an all-star cast. So in 2-year period to do all of that, it was just breathtaking to me. And I remember in Brooklyn, we were in a storage unit place they didn't build yet. It was just a shell of the building, and 3,000 people are in there, and it was amazing. I mean, it was like, yeah, we did it. It was, Brooklyn's like a place full of outcasts and misfits, really. I mean, as I always say, Brooklyn heritage
and hipsters.
I'm not extra proud of it. It kind of works against me. And nowadays with this cancel culture shit going on, it's like last year I had a really bad incident with cancel culture, but because I'm not super popular, I'm still underground, and I maintain most of what I do to myself. I work my way through it. But when people start with you on the internet, it happens to me. I try to be as humble as I can. You mentioned Facebook before, being like, you said more like Facebook's like, not a good place. It's a horrible place, especially if you go into Facebook groups. I mean, people are just waiting to just attack somebody because they think they're famous or whatever they think. And, I got a lot on my mind all the time. I overthink everything I do. So it's like, oh, let's go at Bones today, and, it gets really tired after a while.
Frankie, going back, sorry to cut you off, going back to curious about your reasons for opening a record store. I had a record store for a while with Sharam. We kind of took over
you bought the store Believin', right? You had
music. Believin', yeah. Music. We bought Music Now and renamed it Yoshitoshi Shop. But did you open the record shop because you wanted access to the music? Was it important? Because it's a lot of work, as you know, having a record store and having all that inventory that you got to keep moving through. Right. And so what did that,
I mean, what happened was
it was help you in those early days having did it become like a gathering?
Let me break it down. Break it down real quick. Like, so I don't know, you guys remember the record The Realm by Chantel? Chantel The Realm. It's oh my God, the girl vocal. I can't even think how it goes right now. But anyway, the guy that owned the label, Dennis Pino, he had a record store called Timeless Records, and it went out of business. And that's where we opened up the first Groove Records. So I saw it was for rent, and I inquired, and the rent was the right money. So I said to my brother, a few of my friends that we were going to do these raves, let's open this record store. We'll open the store, and then we'll have a base of operation where people want to because Heather Hart, who was also a partner, did Under One Sky, which was a fanzine. And that's how we got to meet everybody, because we were sending the fanzines to all the cities. After going to Los Angeles, you guys in Los Angeles had great record stores back on Melrose back in the day. All those record stores.
Beat Nonstop, DMC, Wax Music.
I mean, there's too many names. Ron D. Core, still in business.
Yeah, Ron's still running things.
Like I'm saying, to walk in the Ron store and there's Truncate in there digging in the crates. It's like, hey, that's why we opened the record store, because we knew someday one of you guys would be in our record store, And I mean, we would have people come down from Europe. I mean, and come to Groove, and everybody's come through at one point or so. So yeah, it was we wanted a record store absolutely to get the vinyl, because back then it was essential that you had the best vinyl as a DJ in the 90s. It doesn't exist today. But the mixing end of it, having the best vinyl, and then having a base where people wanted the music, they could come to us. That was really what it was for the first Groove years, which was up until 94. Then we moved to Manhattan to open up Sonic Groove in 95, which those 6 years, 95 to 2001, very key years in the development of the music and the scene. And we were there for those 6 years. We didn't make any money in Brooklyn. The minute we went to Manhattan, it was a different ball game. Everybody was getting paid. Everybody was happy. We didn't even open on Sundays. Everybody opens on Sundays, but we didn't open on Sundays. We all DJ'd on Saturday night. You need that one day of rest, or But yeah, we did really well, and I'm proud of the fact that I was part of being able to shape this culture. A lot of kids that come out now, they have no idea the tough work it was. And I mean, we had fights amongst each other. Me and Adam one time got into a fight where he took a baseball bat and took all 3 windows out of the front of the store over something dumb. But I mean, it's like family fights, and the Brooklyn thing is, you know, we get touted as, you know, like I'm a black sheep. So like I believe in business techno because business techno is real techno, but you make money from doing it. And everybody has their base, their agents, their managers, their day manager, their night manager. We're more like the same way, but it's illegal business techno because we were just breaking into warehouses, having the store, not really organized, but just doing it. And I don't know, I become a black sheep at times. And it's a shame because like my heart, you know, the whole PLUR thing, when we did Peace, Love, Unity, Respect, that was because we wanted to keep people safe at our events. You know, we didn't want anybody fighting. So we were pushing it as a movement. It was the Peace, Love, Unity movement, but it became PLUR. And that became the rave mantra of the scene. So, I mean, like, I'm still pushing it that way to this day because when that music's playing, nobody wants to fight. Everybody wants to have a good time and dance. And that's what.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about PLUR. I guess it's similar to what like Ian McKay represented, like, what do they call it? What was their movement? Straight edge. Yeah.
I mean, with us, it was peace, love, unity from the beginning because we knew we were living in a very violent time in New York. You know, the 90s, you know, even saying DC, that, you know, your city, or those cities, every city was different in the 90s. I mean, look, I played in
LA. Henry here doing the buzz parties.
I played a week after the riots in Compton. I had a gig in Compton with Alton 8. It was a huge gig, and it was in Compton the week after the whole city got burned down. From south of the 10 freeway in LA, there was nothing standing. They burned down everything, and they still went on with this rave. We show up there, and they backed in like 4 flatbed trucks to make the stage. But everybody was so terrified. I don't even know if the party went all night. I know we went in, and I was like, we got to get out of here. This is like, it was scary, dude. And I mean, like, seeing those riots and stuff. And then, you know, PLUR pretty much did come out of this California sunshine. The riots made everybody think, wow, like, what the hell just when this is in 92. So, but the rave scene in LA never died. It just got bigger and bigger because you never had to stop. There was never a winter time where you had to stop. We had to stop in the winter. But I mean, LA, I learned so much from California, and I put it in our scene to make it work. Like, after seeing the California scene, the peace love thing was important, and we would always push it that way. And then the PLUR thing just caught on, you know? I mean, I didn't discover peace, love. This has all been going on since Jesus Christ. That, you know, I mean, but when you preach peace all the time, what happens? You got JFK, Martin Luther King, people that just constantly pushing it on people get assassinated. So I never really wanted to, you know, I'm just trying to play. Look, I just want to play music and have fun playing music. And I don't like all the politics attached to it. But my Brooklyn East side gets, you know, it just comes out. I can't help it, you know. So for you, the guy to have at the party, I'm always the guy at the after party in the kitchen, you know, but and everybody's just like, wow, you know, I got good stories to tell, whatever. But like, I you know, I'm very honest and loyal. That's one thing I could say. A lot of people talk shit about Bones, this and that. They don't even know me. They see me on Facebook. They think they know me from somewhere, you know. And then it's like, oh, I heard this, I heard that, I heard this. It's like, come on, man.
That's generally how it goes with anyone. You know,
I mean, you're being
you read one thing about somebody, and then they
the worst thing to me, because I grew up in a city where we were breakdancing, and it did not matter what color, what creed, what religion. If you knew how to break dance on that linoleum, you were getting down on that linoleum. And I wasn't a great break dancer, but because I had the graffiti writer end of it, you know, I take the kids writing with me, and, you know, everybody respected me from that. And, you know, I have some really good friends. I never look at anybody. If you have a talent and I respect you, you know, it's like when I met Man Mike from Underground Resistance, one of my favorite guys in the world because he's so real. It's like music is the universal language. You don't have to speak the same language. The music speak for you. So, you know, I learned.
And that was what you're living and breathing and brought to the techno scene in the 90s, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it always was first things first about bringing people together. And it didn't matter gay, straight, black, white, boy, girl, day, night. It was like we wanted you to come listen to this music and experience that feeling, that community feeling you get when you're on a dance floor.
Do you think that was part of the reason that you got attracted to this kind of music? Because I always feel like the music that we're making, the electronic music scene, is the first global music scene that we're having, and it literally has no race, no color, no borders, no religions really, and people come together, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, we're sitting here and we're listening to these amazing stories from New York and from LA, and I'm coming from a little tiny village in Germany, and I get to listen to this, and I get to talk to you, and that's only because of that electronic music.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
did that draw you in there?
Absolutely. I mean, the first like real electronic record I ever bought was Riot in Lagos by Richie Sakamoto from, Yellow Magic Orchestra. This is in 1980. So this is like Kraftwerk didn't make numbers yet. So the first electronic music I know was Riot in Lagos. And you can put that track on today, and that's techno 101. You know what I mean? That is it. And I knew I was riding BMX bikes. That was like roller skating from time I was 11, and roller discos. Like, I come out of the disco thing as a little kid, but the electronic rhythms that, Giorgio Moroder first were doing on Down to Summer Records, but then like Gino Socio Dancer, there were a little electronic Telex Moscow Disco. And then, he's thinking Moscow Disco, wait, are they doing this in Russia? And then learning that people on a global level are doing this stuff. And yeah, it drew me writing. I mean, I used to take a beating for liking disco in school, disco sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then Kiss comes out and makes a disco record. And I'm like, I proved all you guys wrong. Now they're making disco records. But it involved the house. And, I love house music. House is always traditional, more songy, more soulful. People in Chicago really very proud of house music, and they should be. But because of that, they never let rave come in. Rave didn't get to like Chicago to like 92. You had Bad Boy Bill playing rave music in 91 on the radio, but there was no raves there yet because they were so proud of house music. They wouldn't let raves just come in right away. It was like, I think Chicago and Detroit were the last two places to really get rave. I know Detroit in 92 definitely, like Robert Hood was early on, and he was doing he had a fanzine too, and he was just doing like real militant hardcore techno like Underground Resistance was doing. And I think that's why like Underground Resistance were our heroes, because they were the public enemy of techno in 1992.
Totally. Yeah.
So
Frankie, if I remember correctly, you had also, in addition to putting on events, owning a record store, doing the records, DJing, you had a column in Street Sounds as well, right?
Street Sounds, yes.
I used to read your column. Like, I was obsessed with that column. I write down every record that you mentioned, and I would try to find.
Yeah,
find the vinyl.
Street Sounds was a dance magazine from Canada, and they've got really popular. So I started writing a techno column for them in 1990. I went up to their office one day and I said, they had an office in Manhattan. I'm like, I'm flying around the world doing these parties, and I'd like to do a column about techno for you guys. And they let me, have that it was like a 3-year thing, a monthly. And back then, with no internet, no cell phones, we didn't really have any communication. It was a fanzines and a couple dance magazines. Yeah. But yeah, I was telling my stories about what I was learning and the DJs that I was listening to and the music. And a lot of people I used to get a lot of fan mail from doing that. And I always just wanted to, whatever I learned, I wanted to give back. It was never about making money. It was about having the experience and sharing the experience. So, like, I sometimes feel like I don't get the credit I deserve, but at the same time, who am I to even say I deserve credit? You know what I mean? I try to be humble and just live it. And like the pandemic definitely, I believe it came at a time where I needed to have that downtime where I could think about what I was doing with my life, because we're not getting any younger. You know what I mean? In my 50s now. So, I mean, when Frankie Knuckles passed away at 59 years old, it makes you think, I'm only a few years behind him. Danny Tenelli just celebrated 60 years, It's like, we're going to be doing this forever. We're not going to stop. I mean, this is what we know. So,
Exactly.
I want to make the next few years count. And now, like, I'm calling it post-pandemic techno, because I know everybody that's been in this like us is holding their good releases, and they're going to have these. I'm telling you, the music in the next 2 or 3 years that you're going to hear, it's going to bring us all to another level. We're already there, but I think it's going to even go one more notch up, because every time I say, oh, we did it all, it's all been done, somebody comes along and does something else, So
You might have just coined a term here.
yeah, post-pandemic techno. You guys could be in it with me. You take 20% each. I don't care, but yeah, post-pandemic techno is what I'm calling it. So I think
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's like I have every Truncate record that Dietrich has pressed for you on white label. I have them all. Number 6 is my favorite. You can go on YouTube, punch in Truncate Frankie Bones, and my remix comes up. And when you hear it, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute. That's not too bad, man. So maybe in the future, by the time Truncate 30 comes around, I get on one of them. You know what I mean?
I'll check it out.
So you guys just, hold me down. If I get a little crazy, be like, Bones, hit me up, Bones. You got to calm down. Just a little.
No. We're not holding you at all down. It's amazing to listen to you. It's
But
so
actually,
good.
I wanted to ask, because like we had Joey on the show, Beltram, and he he was talking about how he used to do graffiti back in the days, and he had like photos of his graffiti. Do you
Yes.
have anything like that, or do you plan
So
on?
here, let me tell you the story with Joey that I know. Basically, my brother wrote with different crews, and they went out to Queens. They were building new subway tunnels out there, and they parked trains in there. So I know Adam and Joey met. Adam got caught on a fence running from the cops, and Joey's crew was riding on another train to kind of bounce into each other. And then they unhooked Adam, and they all ran away, and that's how he met Joey. And Adam was like, Joey was like, hey, isn't Bones your brother? And he goes, yeah, I do techno. And that's how they met. But yeah, Joey definitely have a very extensive graffiti catalog collection, because he would buy people's photos from them, old writers. And my brother, the same thing. My brother writes Ven. He's very well known in the scene, and I think they're both working on separate books. I mean, graffiti books seem to be even more popular than techno. Like, people write books on techno and they don't really sell as many, but graffiti, people, it's art, so people always buy them. My brother is very into graffiti. I was into it, but then the music took over, and then once I saw my name on trains, it was like I implied that with making vinyl, getting my name on vinyl, and it worked, because I made it to England before everybody else. So I was, we had at that point the most records out, because we were doing 3 or 4 a week. They were just like it was like a machine. It just coming. Some of them would sell, some of them wouldn't, but all you did is put your name on it and a phone number on the bottom, and people started making calls. So I mean, it was amazing time. I mean, the impeccable timing in 1989 of getting to England right as the rave scene exploded. I mean, nobody really did that, So it was like I said, Todd Terry was 6 months ahead of me. Joey Beltram was 6 months behind me as coming up in the scene. But that pinnacle moment of when the rave scene hit, I mean, I was on a plane. The first plane I was on, Little Louis Vega was on the plane with me going to remix something in London. And his manager was Patrick Moxie, who's like a huge dude, but takes me to the back of the plane. He goes, Bones, you really should consider not doing these rave parties, because they're illegal. You're going to be in another country, and if you get arrested. And I'm like, Patrick, I was like, listen to me. I spent half of my teenage life in subway tunnels, almost getting killed, writing graffiti on trains. If there's 5,000 people at a party in the UK and I'm going there, I'm playing at it. And what happened was, he didn't let Louis play the part. Louis was booked for the next energy after me. Wouldn't let Louis do it. 17,500 people in an aircraft hangar. I wound up getting the call. Yo, you got to go back over to play in Louis Vegas spot. And I'm like, I didn't even want to go. I had just came back, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go. I gotta go by myself. I was terrified. But I went there, and that aircraft hangar is where I heard Strings of Life by Derek May for the first time. Rhythm is Rhythm, and 17,500 people around me. And I understood Detroit techno from that point on, because before that, it was a little weird music to me. I didn't know what it was. But to be with those amount of people, and you hear Strings of Life under those circumstances, that was one of those game changing. It happens maybe once or twice in life. You get these pinnacle moments. That was definitely one of them. So I was glad to do that. But yeah, they're saying don't play raves. They're illegal. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm still here. I never got arrested for DJing yet. Hopefully that never happens. But yeah,
I think I've built the last 25 years of my life at illegal raves. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, and you had the most fun of your life at some of these parties. I've had, I mean, the place that I'm not really good with in the last 30 years is relationships. I've had 5-year relationships. They always, like, my deodorant expires after 5 years. And I don't understand why. It's all the traveling back and forth. But anybody out there that's been with a wife or a girlfriend for over 5 years and you lock together for the rest, God bless you guys, because I don't think that's ever going to happen to me. So, but I'm still looking. I'm still here. I still got, it's this Brooklyn thing. Some people are attracted to it. Some people aren't. It is what it is. I mean, I'm a fun dude. I like having fun. We go out together. We're going to have fun. It makes, that's what it's all about to me.
I think we're all in kind of the same boat here.
Yeah. It's rough, man. I mean,
Frankie, what's your, like, you had this opportunity with the Storm Raves of booking all these, really big artists, right, on the rave scene. Who was your
absolutely.
Who was your favorite artist, or what was your favorite kind of performance from?
I mean, right now, I'm talking today's terms, and I'll go back a little bit, but in recent times, and your Set It movement was one of my favorites, but Robert Hood did no wrong that year. Every time I hear a Robert Hood track, or I just love everything Robert Hood's about, and especially nowadays going into like, one thing about Detroit that I love is that they never get caught up in the black-white thing. If you have talent, you get respect. I've been in the biggest 8 Mile hoods in Detroit. All the artists there, if they know your music and you come there, you're welcome. It don't matter. Skin color doesn't matter. And I learned that. But like when it comes to like, you know, because they're like black people, you know, discovered techno or made techno. And it's like, you know, I know Mad Mike would tell everybody this. I know he would, because it's universal. We've all did this together. It was not one or the other. I know Detroit, I know the Belleville Three, but like right on the other side, you have Richie Horton, who was absolutely Canadian, absolutely on the other side of the river in another country, doing the same thing. Look at Richie, look at Jeff Mills. Both. You can't say one's better than the other, and it's two different, like night day. You know what I mean? So, but the music speaks for itself, and if you know what you're doing with it, you get your respect, and that's why Detroit's my favorite place, because I've always felt at home with the music with these people. You know, Dan Bell. I mean, who could say like Dan Bell? I mean, I sampled Dan Bell. Dan Bell gets really, really mad when you sample his shit. He gets really furious. I actually gave him the keys to my apartment when I lived in Manhattan, and I let him stay in my apartment for 3 days because I felt bad, because you know, I mean, I guess the music's so minimal that when you sample, it's almost exactly the same. But, you know, I mean, it's just like I tried to throw like a rap thing over one of the beats, and it's like, but sampling with me, I've always like, I'm a DJ. You like to take one good moment and turn it into another good moment and for the next Saturday night. And that's basically what my music
But the Bones Breaks records were quite heavily sample based. Did you get into any hot water with some of these artists? Or did they embrace?
What it is if you sample enough stuff on the same track and you make it all play with each other, it sometimes cancels it out, unless you're sampling like a heavy, like let's say Todd Terry, you know how the line of the track goes. If you know exactly where it comes from, the minute you listen to it, that's kind of like you want to stay away from that. But when you like add components and then 808s and 909s and you make your own shit out of it and it becomes something, you know, I always try to turn one moment into another moment, regardless if it was for me or if it was for the DJs that played stuff.
It's like what the hip-hop producers were doing, basically.
The Bones Break stuff was just fun. It was scrappy tracks I had laying around. We put 8 of them out on a 12-inch, sell it for $3.99. And, you know, people bought them because they were getting an album's worth of material for a 12-inch price, really. So it was like almost like a budget series when you think about it. So, but yeah, I mean, I love making original stuff, and I've had people sample just as much of my own original work, like Yeah by like, you know the record, Yeah, D-Shape, you know?
D-Shape, yeah.
So like,
That's a good one to play again, actually.
Sampled right out of my Break Boys record. Icy did the same thing. One of the first Icy records, and his Break records in Florida, they're like legendary. But one of his records just took all of my shit, and it's on his shit. But I took it from somewhere else, so how could I say anything wrong with it? But you know when you sample it, and then it's like, look, even drum and bass, to this day, people don't even realize that the Success and Effect record, Roll It Up, it's called, is the Amen Breaks. Nobody knew who the Winstons were. They knew Mantronics and they knew the Success and Effect record. Because I came there, it's the one that goes, let the bass kick, and then has the heavy drum beats in it, right? That let the bass kick sample's been in every early jungle record you know of, so it comes from Success and Effect. The heavy 808 behind it. It wasn't just the Amen Break from the Ultimate Breakbeat records. It was either Mantronics or the Success and Effect record. That's what was popular when I first went to the UK. But that Success and Effect record, wow. I mean, legendary, like in the scene at that time for early, like, you know, breakbeat music. And that became, you know, drum and bass pretty much. So, yeah.
How many records do you have in your collection?
So check it. I moved to California in 2006 with 47,500 records, right? That fills up a 13-foot by 13-foot in all dimensions, height like a square. A half not an 18-wheeler, but a half of the biggest Penske truck or the biggest rental truck you can buy. It filled the half. The truck basically was like this, like a funny car from the weight of the records. You're only supposed to put 8,000 pounds in there, right? 47,500 records is like 23,000 pounds. So I overweighted this truck 3 times. We were up in the mountains in the Appalachian, and the truck was like, whoa. It was like, are we going to make it? So I had most of my stuff in storage in Cali, and then I began selling it. I over 10 years, I've sold pretty much the whole collection. I own a couple thousand records.
A lot of that stuff went to Ron Ducour's shop, right?
Yeah. A lot of Ron got my record racks from Sonic Groove. Like, I mean, but Ron will give me anything I want when I go there. So it's a equal.
Was this guy?
Because I know Ron's given me quite a few heads up a few times. Like, yo, man, Frankie's records are here. You gotta get over here.
Good stuff. I mean, you know, I do have
I'm
all my
pretty sure-
CLR records. I have all my Truncate records, and then I have your Vapor. I think, did you press Vapor on a vinyl? Mo, did you do that Vapor sleep track on vinyl? I think.
Oh,
they gave me a
no,
white-
actually, the Adult Swim owns that track.
Okay, I got.
yeah,
And then maybe it's not. I got something that did that of yours. It was on
Yeah.
a white label that I always played. I don't remember the title because on white labels. You never know.
yeah.
But yeah, the Truncate stuff's good because it's just a stamp and you don't even know which one it is, and it's just so good. I think.
Well, that's
think
I
14
don't do that anymore. I started doing actual labels now, but all the first 19 were all just stamps.
So wait, so Dietrich had to stamp every one of the records by himself?
He had an intern do it.
Oh yeah. Well, I would imagine.
But I would order the stamp and have it shipped to his
Yes.
mastering studio.
Yeah, because I still go up there to buy records from him. Like, he'll give me, anything that's dead stock. I just give him a couple $100. I wound up going home with a trunk full of records. And
Oh, nice.
it's so
I know.
fun.
A lot of our followers might not know who Ron Decor is, but he is probably one of the most. Chris, I took you to his shop one time and I introduced you to him. He's one of the staples out here on the West Coast. He's been running the longest running record store on the West
The last
Coast.
record store standing, as they call
Yeah,
it.
that's what they say.
What's the name?
But
Like night.
Ron
Dr.
Decor.
Three Clouds Mix Lab.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in
Costa Mesa.
it
Costa-
was in Costa Mesa. It's in Fountain Valley now, but it's
Fountain
Fountain
Valley.
Valley. Yeah, Fountain Valley.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's played such a huge, massive, pivotal role in the dance music scene out here on the West Coast. I mean,
yeah,
it's been
and
the
it's still
center.
going. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He does like Sunday events and people come down, barbecue. Yeah, Ron and Helen, his wife, they've been there. They've had 3 or 4 different shops over, I guess it's 26,
Like
27.
93, I think.
Oh, is it even more than that now? I know.
I think
I
it's like-
first went there in 93, so I think, it's probably 93, or I think the first one was in Costa Mesa. But the store
Yeah.
they have now has only been there like 2 years. They were right up the block, but I like the new store. It's big. He has a lot of stock in there. You can find stuff. He orders new stuff. So, it's a pivotal thing in that scene, especially in Orange County, because there's nothing in Orange County anymore. Really.
Yeah.
No. I mean, as far even like, but even back in the days, I guess I don't really ever remember partying much in Orange County. It was always in LA.
Yeah.
Actually, Ron Decor had a club in Orange County called Plasma for a while. It was in
Metropolis, I
Fullerton.
think was one in
Yeah.
in Irvine. It might have been though, but yeah, there's been some big shows in Anaheim. I went to one with Cosmic Gate. It was like more of a trance thing. They love the trance out there. They were loving
Yeah.
trance for a while. Now I have nothing against trance music per se. I like hard trance, like when it's more German, Commander Tom, that type of thing. But the West Coast was more into the progressive end of it. Like you mentioned BT earlier. I mean, BT's definitely a awesome musician, but with the trance thing, I think it gets for New York, it was always too light. A lot of that stuff, it was very
Too happy.
light, but-
Not only for New York.
No,
well, I don't want to use the thing is everything I say I get held accountable for. Oh, you said BT's music was soft. I heard you on the I didn't say that. I said that it was a little too light for New York. It's like,
Talking about a German hard trance and Commander Tom, like how your first trip was obviously to the UK, but when was your first trip to Germany, and were you aware of like what was going on in the early rave
was I
days in Germany,
aware?
like the first May days and Westbam and all these people?
Technozoid in Eastern Germany in 1990. It was like I went to London. I went to Germany back to back. The wall just came down like maybe a year before it. And
Right.
I went into Eastern Germany. The other side of Berlin was on the other side of the wall. And like I got to see, wow. I mean, that was culture shock right there. Whatever was behind that wall, they really were, it was basically, like I said, I went to Compton after the riots. I'm not saying Eastern Germany, Berlin looked like that, but you could tell the difference between Western and Eastern. And I got thrown in some old school and it looked like a bomb hit the place. And that was in 1990. It was called Technozoid. And I definitely was one of the earliest guys because my whole techno record actually did better in Germany than anywhere else in Europe. And it had English lyrics on it, which was kind of weird. If I had German vocals on it, it probably would have been a pop record. But it was well known. It was the first Love Parade, called Techno. I mean, the first 2 or 3 Love Parades, The Future Is Ours was named after mine and Tommy's album, The Future Is Ours. And in 91, My House Is Your House and Your House Is Mine was my Break Boys record. And that was the theme of the second Love Parade or the third Love Parade.
Wow.
So, we had like our tracks coming out of Warner Brothers, the Lexicon of Techno and House, it's called. Warner Brothers stamps on it. It didn't come out in America like that, but But the records that were on that compilation, oh my God, I mean, it had everything. It had 808 State. It had all the early R&S stuff, LFO, like a lot of different European stuff and American stuff. Really good.
I know the Germans were pretty good in putting it right away on big CDs and big labels. What was the first German techno artist you got to meet? What was the first artist?
I guess for techno artists, because I went to Denmark too in 1990. Dr. Baker was really huge in
Denmark.
Denmark I went to Copenhagen and Dr. Baker had that record Chaos, and it was a huge, like the first big techno record out of Denmark. So Germany, I mean, like Mark Arcada from day one, like in the 90s when he was doing the Alien stuff in the 303 EPs, like Mark Arcada, PCP, those were our heroes too, because his stuff was, I mean,
but that was out of Frankfurt, actually.
Studio being like with some big nuclear tanks in his backyard, you know, like post-apocalyptic stuff. But yeah, we were big on the move from very early on, like 1990. I mean, other artists, I mean, I like Tala 2XLC back when he first came out, but Age of Love, I don't think Age of Love was German. No.
Have you been to Frankfurt in those early days? Met Mark Spoon and all these people?
I went to Berlin, and I know they weren't like always like Mayday wasn't always in Berlin. It was in another city, but not far from there.
It was in Cologne.
I've been to Munich. I've been to Berlin several times, but yeah, I was mostly going to Berlin in the early days, and I played there. You know, I mean, Mayday in '93, I played. I think Joey and Lenny played the year before me, but by that time, I mean, all our music kind of infiltrated together. So, you know, you had a lot of, you know, when they say Gabba music came from Holland, Lenny D, definitely Industrial Strength Records, definitely very influential to that whole Gabba thing happening in the first place, really, because, you know, he put out Mark Arcada Payne's records. That was Lenny's thing. Lenny was like, heard like the Mescaline United record. And I mean, it was like, that changed his life. That was like, I'm going to start Industrial Strength. I'm going to put the move on Industrial Strength. And that was the stuff we were playing at Storm Rave. I mean, those very futuristic, hard industrial kind of techno. It wasn't even Gabba, but it was just right for a dirty warehouse, you know? Yeah. So, you know, very influential like stuff like during that time. And yeah, we were pushing it like from all ends. I remember when I went to the store with my mixtape, it said Rotterdam, Detroit, Los Angeles, Brooklyn. Those were the cities that I was most like, you know, playing stuff from and wanting to be a part, and London. But like the London thing, the rave scene got so big so quick there that when you were going to other parts of Europe, it was just starting. So I go to Italy for the first time, having an American guy over there, go to Rome. But the language barrier thing was always, we didn't have internet then. So it wasn't like you could look up words or anything. And, you know, I'm with Laurie D out in Italy. We were in Naples driving back to Rome. The car breaks down. The only thing we know was the music. We could point to things and say maybe a word and understand. But yeah, when you're in another country and they don't speak your language, it's kind of overwhelming, actually. You know, limited vocab. So like
you mentioned you were working with Omar Santana a lot back in the days. I mean, he moved out to the West Coast as well. Whatever happened to him? Is he still kicking around?
Omar's still around. I mean, Omar is yeah, he started doing the trip hop thing. That's why he moved to the West Coast for a while. But his heart is with the Gabba thing. I mean, yeah, there you go. I got mine here. Oh, can you see it? It's like
that's pretty full on.
Yeah, I'm like designing.
Don't forget the beer.
Like, the background, that was strange. But yeah, Omar, his heart is in the hardcore thing. He got into dubstep too. I mean, that's one thing. Omar, very, very wide range of genres. Like me, I mean, I like break beats. I like house. I like techno. I like disco. I like freestyle. I like historical stuff. I like the futurism of it though the most, like with techno. But that's my base. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm like Truncate. There was a Tracky remix called Casino where you went straight Chicago ghetto track style on the mix. Yeah. It was a remix called Casino.
Yeah.
That to me, and then Truncate 6 on a little 10-inch again, because you go in these, you have these modes where you're like, you go into like this DJ funk, like DJ Dion kind of straight Chicago jack and stuff, and that's
the shit that I love too, man. Like Dance Mania, all that Dance Mania stuff.
You just make it into kind of like it's ghetto house, but it's techno. It doesn't have all like the cliche vocal samples. Just straight up that snare and that kick bang, and like, and I love that stuff. That's the stuff that gets the crowd going. So
thanks, man. Thanks.
Let's go back a little bit to the mid of the 90s. I want to hear more about the Sonic Groove and your time in New York then. Like what your brother and then there was Heather Hart was involved. Like what was What's going
you gotta
on?
realize we opened up Groove Records in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Bensonhurst, Brooklyn was where the John Gotti, the mafia, the whole mafia organization.
Full on
lived.
crime.
Yeah, at that time in '94. I mean, and, you know, ever since, you know, like, you know, you watch The Sopranos, they're in New Jersey, but if they were back in the '90s, they were in Brooklyn somewhere, because that's where also we opened up in the middle of organized crime, like where all the Italian people live.
Did any of those wise guys come in and try to
Oh yeah, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going with the story, right? So like we're open like a year or two, and these two like kind of younger, they were definitely straight gangster. They come in the store, they're looking around, and you know, me and Adam are just like kind of watching them. They're not there for records, and they want to put one of those Joker poker games, you know, like a gambling like video game in the store. So the dude comes up and he's trying to like sell us the pitch, you know, and I already knew you don't put these machines. I don't have pinball machines. I don't have Atari. I don't. It's a record store. They see a record store, they're looking at opportunity. I could have my machine there and make money. And then, you know, after I told the guy I wasn't interested, he kind of pushed up on me. He's like, "What are you, afraid of gangsters?" And I got up in his face and I'm like, "I am a fucking gangster." And he just kind of walked out. Then the bigger dudes, they went back to report to their people and had some bigger dudes come. But when we did Storm Rave, one of my partners was the mafia dude. He took care of any type of issues we had. And we had a lot of issues with gangsters trying to shake us down for money besides the police. I mean, we got shut down in Manhattan in '92, in July of '92. I had 3,000 people on a line outside. We didn't do prepaid. I would have made like 45 grand if those people would have got in. But Lord Michael from the Limelight called the police on us. We were in Manhattan. We should have never went into Manhattan. We should have stayed in Brooklyn. But as the police are raiding this with the fire department, I had this guy with sunglasses come in. His name was Joey Black. He goes, "Oh, your Bones?" I'm like, yeah. He goes, "Who rented you this place? I need to speak to him immediately." And I'm like, "Well, you can see there's cops running around." He goes, "I don't." He goes, I got people out in the van. If you don't tell me who to talk to." And then it was like, it was going to get really heavy. One of my guys was there, took them outside. They had to go to Bensonhurst, 18th Avenue, the social club, and drink espresso with the pinky, you know, out of the little cups, and explain to them that, you know, Bones just is a DJ. He doesn't take the money. He's just, you know, and I had that guy because the gangsterism that was going on, like shaking down people for money, it was alive and well. And then, you know, a lot of those guys try to get in the rave scene. The club owners, they were always Italian mafia, and we were able to get in their venues because, you know, they saw us as a money making thing, and that's how we got out to Staten Island. And we were in all the clubs out there, and we were throwing raves right through the '90s, and you know, making, as long as you make those people money, they're happy. So, but yeah, it was kind of a dangerous place. I mean, you know, Brooklyn in the '90s, that's what pretty much made us how we are. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not really proud of it. I've had as much problems being from Brooklyn as I've had success. And it's just, I know in my heart, like I said, I live spiritually. Like, you know, I look up to God, and I don't want to talk about God, but you know, I pray to my God. Whatever God everybody else has, I think it's the same. You know, it comes from inside. You want to do the right thing, the righteous thing. And this music to me has always been the right thing. So that's, you know, how I live it. But I mean, other stories, it's just ton. I mean, I don't even know where you want to go with it. You tell me.
Yeah. And how has Brooklyn changed for you over the years? Like living there all these years, seeing the changes,
the hipster,
seeing the hipster thing.
You know, it's hipster. You know what I mean? I mean, I know you played at Output before, right? You played at Output, right?
Yeah, every year Chris and I would do
you
like
probably played at Dubfire. I mean,
all of us
at Output at some point. So Output was owned by my friend Shawnee, who, you know, we and him go back years, and what they did there, it was amazing that Williamsburg even, you know, became this really gorgeous, beautiful place. Because back when we were doing the early raves, we were breaking into warehouses on the waterfront. It wasn't like that, you know. Yeah. But Output had a really good run. I mean, an excellent run. I've seen so many like great techno people that you wouldn't see really, like, you know, like when Function would come into play, like, you know, my brother would play, whoever it was, you know, it was amazing. And to see all this talent on a daily, like bringing them in, it changed a lot where the hipster people had a lot of money to spend. They made Williamsburg into this little communion like place where very expensive. I don't know what's going on there now because the coronavirus really took the heart out of New York for the meantime. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but yeah, it changed a lot. You know, a lot of hipster people moved in. A lot of Europeans were living here. I'd say half of the scene was controlled by Europeans before the pandemic. All the big clubs, Mirage, whatever it is, the Knockdown Center, mostly European people come in here doing parties, which is great because they had a lot of opportunity and they made a lot of money. But I don't think they're here now because, you know, when the pandemic hit, everybody split, really. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're going to see what's next. We're going to try to build this thing up into something again. And I'm excited about it because I think that, like I said, 2022, 2023, people are, we've all been changed by this pandemic. There's no,
Post-pandemic techno.
yeah, post-pandemic techno. I mean, I want to hear what you guys got. Chris, you got to bring it now, like those audio records back in the day, dude. When we would get a new audio track, like, someday it's just a black label says audio on it. We was just like, slam that thing.
Dude, that's the funny thing. I'm going to actually redo this, but with CLR. I'm just going to have a black label, CLR on it, and a number. I'm going back to the old audio times.
That's cool. I'm going to hit you up with something. We got to do something finally after all these years. I mean, but I'm starting actually to, I got my new studio built. I'm starting to get back into it. Yeah, I'm here to drink to that too, but the beer disappeared.
Please do, man.
Where is it?
I already have a plan in my head.
Yeah, well, we'll talk. I mean, I'm around. And I mean, I love the stuff you did with Adam's stuff. What was the best thing about Traversal Wormholes? When you did them, you had the best remixes. Like Tommy 47. To me, I was hanging out with Tommy in Detroit and with Ben Sims, and it's like, I know Ben Sims for a really long time, but I had just met Tommy, a wild dude and a great dude. I love his sound. Him and Adam have that kind of similar industrialist that I like.
Yeah, we had a certain time of years that was really amazing time with amazing casts of artists, and Mo was one of them.
Yeah. And it was always
really good.
The futurism of techno on those remixes, and it definitely I paid attention to all that stuff. So, so I mean, it's it's all you guys are part of my history, which is great because, I mean, it's, I was talking to Kurt from Drop Bass, and Kurt's like, everybody, Bones. I'm like, I might know a lot of people. I don't know everybody. And then all the people I know don't really like me. So it's like, certain people love me, some people hate me, but it's just nature of business. I mean, all I want to do is help people and get new music and play music. That's all I want to do is just DJ, really. If I could do this again for the next 30 years, if I could do it, I'd do it.
So what are your post-pandemic techno plans? Have you?
So, like, what we've been doing, like, you see this bridge in my background here. Well, we were going down there with a sound system. And when I leave here to get off with you guys, I'm going down to what we call Techno Beach. We call it Techno Beach because everybody that's come to this Techno Beach knows it's Techno Beach. We don't really give away where the location is because my guys are setting up there right now. So when I leave here, I'm going to go down. We're going to go live from Techno Beach tonight because it's 70 degrees out today. And, we were doing events like last year.
Exciting.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, but you want to hear, I'll tell you one more story and then we're going to probably wrap this up, right? I mean, but I got a really good one.
You can tell 2 more stories too.
Yeah, I could do maybe 2, but this one's amazing because when George Floyd got murdered last year and right when the warm weather came and we started doing these outdoor parties, I did this video. I don't even know what a video is, but I was talking about how all these protests during the pandemic, nobody was wearing masks, and that we would have never even brought a sound system out if people at these protests would have caught like coronavirus. Nobody did. So like for the summer when it was warmer, people were relatively safe from COVID. But I had mentioned that George Floyd got murdered on May 25th, and it was 40 days to July 4th. So that's 40 days. Like Jesus with the resurrection and, all that. I'm talking all this dumb shit. And then July 4th, we throw this party under this bridge. And this guy pulls up in a pickup truck with no license plates, missing a shoe, a white guy holding a Bible up, doesn't say nothing, comes right down to where you are, flips the whole DJ console. We had like a full Nexus system on a thing. The guy just flips the table upside down. And then, he got pulverized by my crew because he just knocked $10,000 worth of gear onto the ground. And the guy gets back in his van, this pickup truck, and leaves with no license plates. And I'm like, I'm not ever speaking about anything biblical online again, because in a way, I feel like I just manifested that to happen. Because where did this guy come from on a grenade in this truck? And I'm like, whoa, what people say, what you say, you manifest a lot of it. And I mean, I have a powerful voice. So like, you got to be really careful how I do things from now on, because you're held accountable with cancel culture. Everything you say, you better be held
That's
accountable.
A crazy story.
I hope that my DJ career, but that was that was like one of the things I remember for 2020, because like we did parties all through the summer. We were always by the ocean. Like we'd like bring the sound system to the ocean, right? So, there's nobody in front of you but a big Atlantic Ocean. So, I mean, during the summer months last year, the pandemic had calmed down a little bit. It wasn't, wasn't running rampant. The minute the end of September came, Brooklyn became a hotspot again. And that's when we stopped doing parties altogether. But we had a good 20 weekends where we were out there, a couple, 50 people, 100 people, sometimes more. But it was just like 1990 to me. We were kind of doing this all over again in a 30-year loop. So whatever I did then, I'm looking at, I'm writing things down. I want to do big parties again. Big, I mean, yeah, a lot of the parties in Brooklyn that were happening, in like Bushwick and in Williamsburg, 4,000 people, 5,000 people coming out, to a bang on party, or a lot of organizations. Time Warp was doing stuff here. I went to see Porter Robinson because one of my artists, Rado, was opening up for Porter Robinson. This kid put 3,500 people in a warehouse on the waterfront. Yeah, just Porter Robinson with his light show. So it's like, obviously, like the EDM guys are doing it. So why not the techno guys? Techno's it's a big sound, a big scene. Carl always fills up wherever he goes. So I mean, Brooklyn's definitely a good place for it. So
post-pandemic techno will be big.
Yeah. Let's say we all did this together as a group. I don't like taking credit for.
You did that.
But
you coined it now.
Yeah, I like that because I got a few tracks that I'm holding on to that I'm still working on and developing. But I don't think any artist right now, maybe now, but like in the last 6 months, if you had something really hot, you wanted to put it on the back burner because the club thing has been kind of shut down.
That's interesting that you're saying that because we talked about this on the show, like during the summer even, when Matt, obviously Radio Slave and his label Records, he kept continuing releasing really amazing stuff. And we're all wondering, and I haven't made a final decision on it yet. What was it smart to release the stuff? Was it smart to hold back on it? I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think if you're making good music now, you'll always be able to make good music later. But at the same time, see what happens is if you make that banger, let's say it comes out next year, then people go into your back catalog and start looking at stuff, And then when you go like through anybody's back catalog, you can find things like if you went back to Joey Beltram's beginning records before Energy Flash, you would find things that were like so innovative at the time. Like Lost Entity is one of my favorites on New Groove because you hear the futurism in there. And it was like we were doing house tracks, we were doing good stuff, but it brought it to this next level, kind of like, And then Energy Flash just, to me, all right, so if I had to pick like two best techno records of all time, I mean, for me, it would be Energy Flash and then Strings of Life. I know Strings of Life could be a house track, but the futurism in that record when Derek did it. And Derek just went through this whole thing with the cancel culture thing too. And it's like, I don't like this internet like bullying shit because it's like until you can get an app where you can reach into someone's screen and choke them out, the cancel culture can ruin anybody, really. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just like, oh, drum cell. So I heard you were with this. I don't even want to even say anything as a joke because shit happens. Someone's like, yeah, I used to see Bones with underage girls all the time at raves. That's such a generalistic statement. I've never ever I know in my heart, it's like, at this point, if I date someone that's 35, they're too young. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on, man. Oh, maybe when you were younger. No, I pretty much, all the relationships I had, I never ever cheated because I'm a loyal dude. But when you're on the road every week, the women are home, whatever, shit happens, man. I'm not saying this or that, but like, to be honest with you, I just don't like when people that don't know somebody starts talking shit about them because it's just like, this is what goes on Facebook. This is why it's like a headache when you go on Facebook and you read some of these shit because it's all just bullshit, really, at the end of the day. You see these people in the street, they fold up like a deck of cards, just done, but it is what it is.
It is what
actually, I had a question about like Brooklyn because like the last like couple times I've played there, I've heard like that there's just like no more venues in Brooklyn, and like where are people going to be doing parties?
Well, I think what's going to happen is after they're talking about opening movie theaters and Broadway shows, the venues, clubs, bars are going to be last on the list. And I don't know because they didn't even announce it. We're still in the pandemic here, and it's pretty it's still pretty apparent. Like even like if I go to the post office, it's COVID-19, right? But if you leave New York, go to Long Island, which is 30, it's like Orange County, but Long Island's 30, 40 miles away. When you go in a post office, it's like COVID-3. Like you can almost take your mask off. There's no bulletproof glass and they're not all panicking. The restaurants are open. New York City, it's a lot different. I don't know when the venues are going to come back in New York because they'll have restrictions where you can't dance. You'll still have to social distance. You can't have people.
No, but I mean,
but I know clubs open right now. No.
But I mean, are there going to be any venues left? That's my question.
Knockdown Center's still there. All the venues that were around Mirage, they're still there. I'm sure that, you know, there's people with money that's going to want to bring this stuff back. There's got to be, look, there'll be definitely venues. There's venues out there. It's just right now they're not allowed to operate. I mean, they just busted another one over the weekend.
Nope.
This has been a common theme, 150 people, alcohol, and DJs, and they're all getting busted. So, I mean, with us, we're out on a beach, under a bridge, in a park, where it's legal to be there. It might not be legal to amplify sound, but I don't think, right now, people aren't really worried about that. As long as you're not really bothering anybody that lives nearby. And we throw parties where there's nobody that lives nearby, because a 909 kick drum can travel a very long distance. I mean, you see that bridge behind me, right? We used to do one in the Bronx, and the sound would go right across over to Queens, and the cops would cross the bridge out of jurisdiction to tell us to lower the music, but they couldn't shut us down because they were from Queens. So, I mean, it happens. But yeah, I think outdoor events will be fine. People are starting to throw. New Jersey's open. I mean, it's right over the river. You go, there's a couple clubs, you know, Barcode. I mean, they've done, you know, a few big names. The Duffy, did you do that, Barcode?
I played Barcode, yeah.
Yeah, so like Barnes played there, a few of the guys. I mean, you know, I was trying to get a spot in there, but I don't know. Again, you know, what happens is whenever I meet somebody, they like me, one of the people on their team don't. So it always gets into this whole transitional thing. But I'm a hell of a nice guy. Anybody out there that's watching this, look, I'm sweating and stuff, but it's hot here. Yeah, I've kept it pretty loyal over the last 30 couple of years, 33, 4. I don't know how long I've been DJing, probably 35 years, but I'm still here.
Wow.
I'm still
Frankie, is there anything?
But I'm not that, you know, I'm not that old.
Frankie, and reflecting on those early years, is there anything that you wish you'd done creatively that you didn't get a chance to do? Or did you feel like you did it all and you did it your way?
I mean, you know what? I like to look at it like I don't want to go backwards. I only want to move forwards. I've made some mistakes in my life, but I think everybody does. It's just a learning experience. You know, it's trial and error. I'm very trusting on people. So there's a lot of like labels that, you know, took advantage of that, you know, when I was doing mixed CDs and stuff. But we were paving the way for a lot of things. Like even when the mixed CD thing came out and I did like United DJs of America, like, you know, they were handing us big amounts of money to license. And I'm like, what if I just give you tracks that I made and we make a mix out of it? Do I get that licensing money? And you did, because it was your tracks on the CD. So in the 90s, I was able to take what you would get paid $2,500 for. You have 60 of your own tracks on there or 80 of your own tracks. Now you're walking away with 15 grand, you know? So I learned how to manipulate my own sounds to make the money on the discs I was putting out rather than making it just a mix CD. So stuff like that, I'm very proud of because it got me where I am. I should have bought property early on. My brother bought a house and he owns it and it's worth a lot of money. I can't disclose figures, but I rented my whole life because, like I said, I'd be going through these 5-year periods thinking I'm going to get married, and then at the last minute it don't happen, and then you're moving on. So, you know, over all the last 30 years, you know, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I should have bought property, and then I'd probably be well off right now. Right now, I feel like I'm back in 1988, 89, and I got to do this all over again. When, you know, in 10 years I'll be retired, but the thing is, again, I didn't do this for money. I did it for the love. And it's like, you know, I definitely believe everything I've done for the right reasons. Yeah, life is a journey, right? And it's taking us all
Still sounds like we're all in the same boat here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like now, post, you know, pandemic techno, whoever's going to get on our team now will be with us. You know what I mean? It should be everybody that does it for the right reasons, right? So there'll be a lot of people doing it for the right reasons.
Amazing. Well, thanks. That's a great way to end.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you guys had me. I mean, if you want to have me come back on at some point, if you think it's good for the, you know, good for the soul, good for the business, whatever, I'm here. You know, let me
Frankie,
know.
that was definitely amazing for the soul. We've never met. That was the best way I could ever imagine to first time
I know,
speak to
I've
you.
been, you know, like I said, I know you for a very long time. I really appreciate what you've done with my brother because that's my only blood brother. I don't have any other, you know, just me and him. So, you know, the traversable wormhole thing definitely was a good time, you know, and all you guys, you know, I'm here. I love you guys. That's all I can tell you.
Thanks for coming on, Frankie.
All right, man.
Thanks so much. It was
Thanks everyone for watching.
Good show, man.
Yeah, we'll see everyone next week.
I did it without alcohol. I can't believe it.
Have a good time at the Techno Beach, Frankie. I just wanted to say.
Oh,
Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Peace out.
Yeah, once again, guys, that was amazing. I'll see you all soon.
Chris's mic will be lower next week.
Thanks, man. All right.
Good night, everyone. Have fun at the Techno Beach, yeah?
You see the can, it disappears. Where you got to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right.
Bye, guys.
Peace.